Hello and welcome to this episode of Audible Anomaly, the podcast where we foster deep and meaningful conversation to help get you through your darkest days. I'm Josh, and in today's episodes, we are talking about all our blunders and some embarrassing moments. Oh boy, I cannot wait to get embarrassed in front of these gents. Of course, I am not alone. I have my lovely friends with me. So let's shoot it over to Davey. How
Hello.
was your week?
My week was okay. It had a really rough start. But overall, I feel like I recovered mentally and emotionally. And I had a couple streams that I was like really excited about. One I did last night in particular that was really, really fun. And I'm hoping I can carry that momentum and keep doing more fun stuff like that.
Yeah, it was definitely a great stream, nice and long, and it was
Yeah.
very, very fun to watch for sure. All right, Kevin, how was your week?
My week was pretty good. A lot of humdrum stuff, but had a garage sale that did well.
Nice. That's always good. It's always weird to see, like, especially right now with the situation doing garage sales.
It was a really weird situation for sure. Even though I'm sure a lot of people were vaccinated, everyone was wearing masks, which was nice.
Hey,
And we just tried to keep things in like whole dollar increments. Less
Nice.
change.
right. I wonder, is there still a coin shortage? Do we know?
I do not know. We actually had more coins than small bills, so we could have been fine either way, but keep things easy.
For sure. Nice. All right. So my week was a little more eventful than the past couple. Obviously doing Audible Anomaly stuff, but I ended up starting the Google cert again.
Nice.
So the certification for data analytics. And I finished course number 6. I just have technically one more to go. There's technically 2 more to go, but one of them is the capstone project. So it's like working on portfolio and stuff.
Mhm.
So kind of sort of a course, but not really. The last one is specifically focused around R, the programming language. So that one is, I think, the longest course that they have. I think it's somewhere around 33 hours or so, they estimate.
Oh, wow.
Granted, their rule of thumb is like give you twice as much time as you actually need. So I've been able to get through those a little bit quicker than that, but I definitely think it'll probably take me at least 3 days for sure. And then other than that, I officially accepted my college admission to my new university.
Hey,
congratulations. Thank you. So I'll start that in the fall. Set up my appointment to set up my classes for that. So that's pretty much my week. Trying to think of anything else. I know there's something else I wanted to mention, but I clearly forgot it, so maybe not that important.
Was it the thing that you forgot to mention last week?
Oh, there was a thing that I forgot to mention last week, which is you're an adult when you get happy over getting a KitchenAid. But to be fair, we got an amazing deal on it. So normally, the wifey is a baker. She graduated from college in pastry arts as well as management. So she does a lot of like cakes and stuff on the side. So we needed a nice big boy. I think we got a 6-quart, which is like the beginning of like the commercial size. Normally those start around $450, $500. We got it for like $270, I think it was. So almost half off because it was refurbished through KitchenAid. So we'll kind of take that, and then we ended up getting a grinder attachment as well. So I'll start doing some meat grinding, hopefully within the next week or so. But we'll see.
Very
nice.
Fun.
Yeah. But that was the thing I forgot to mention last week. But
that was really not the thing this week.
It was not the thing this week. No. I'll maybe remember it later. I know it's not the wifey's birthday because that's not until a while, so I'm good there. Or our anniversary, so I'm still good there. So
well, Mother's Day is coming up. So
Mother's Day is coming up. I believe that is
the 9th,
the weekend. Yeah, that we drop this. So I feel like it's early this year for some reason, like a week early.
It feels like this year's gone by really, really quickly. It doesn't
That
feel like we're
too.
5 months in, you know?
Yeah. Normally, I remember there being a 1 in front of it, in front of Mother's Day for some reason. So like
Hmm.
for me, it'd be like the 16th, like a week later.
Mhm.
And normally Father's Day is the one that I think of as like earlier in the month, but I don't know.
Now that's interesting. I think of Father's Day is later in the month, just because sometimes it falls on my sister's birthday, which is pretty late in the month.
Mm.
That's fair. I don't know. I always think it should be a little bit earlier because then you have that butting up against 4th of July, which obviously in the US is a big deal. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really think about Father's Day, to be fair, for issues,
Yeah.
for reasons we may get into eventually down the road. But you know, there's that. But anyway, I guess that's all I really got for that. So let's move on. Not quite yet to our embarrassing stories. We'll save that for a little bit later. But I was trying to think of like, getting myself in the headspace of okay, like embarrassing stories. What are some like common issues or common things that I kind of think of when I think of embarrassing stories? And the one thing I had a burning question in my head was whether or not you should share your embarrassing stories with others. Right? Because there's this notion of like, oh, it's so embarrassing. I don't want to tell people, but like, I'm of the mindset of, hey, the more you share your embarrassing stories, potentially people might pick up on certain themes that maybe you didn't pick up on yourself while you're going through it, maybe offer you some advice. And then the more you share it, the less embarrassing it kind of gets. You know? At least that's how I think of it. But I was really, really interested in seeing what your guys' opinion is. So effectively, should you share your embarrassing stories with others? Why or why not?
Well, I'm in the mindset of share your embarrassing stories to people you want to grow closer to. Because embarrassing stories make us feel more human and make us seem more human and fallible in other people's eyes, and that's like really relatable, you know? It's easy to relate to somebody if you feel like, oh, they have this embarrassing story. Obviously, they have some failures in life. So do I. Cool. We can relate on this. But obviously, it depends on the severity of embarrassment. You know, I'm not. I'm not going to tell all my stories all the time to everybody. Although I am a little more of an irregular person, and I'm a very open book, so I think I would admit a lot of things. But there are a couple things that I just keep deep down, and because there's no reason to tell them. I can relate with an embarrassing story. I just don't have to tell them all.
Yeah, I am of a similar mind. Like, it really does help forge that bond between you and someone else when you share embarrassing stories. Um, I don't know. I feel like they're great to show how you would handle a specific situation or relate to something that someone is going through. But similarly, I'm not going around telling everyone my embarrassing stories.
Yeah, and to be fair, I always hated the phrase, "Oh, my life's an open book," because it's like in practice, 99% of the people that doesn't necessarily apply. Their life is more like them shouting it out through a blowhorn and just telling people a bunch of stuff. It's like I I always the way I always kind of described it is, look, I'm not going to go out and like just tell people things. I mean, sure, maybe for the podcast because that's the format. This is kind of an exception to the rule. So maybe disregard the statement entirely. I don't know. We'll see. But the way I always saw it, at least in my day-to-day relationships, is my life is kind of like a book on a shelf. It's there. If you want to open it up and read it, sure, I'll divulge whatever really you want to know. But I'm not going to just go out there and just shout it through a megaphone. You know?
Yeah. That
That's
that makes sense. It's about being open to people, not being open towards people. You know.
open to people rather than open mouthed to people.
Yeah. Except for me. I shout in everyone's face everything about me, so just, be ready for that. My blood type is O negative. You both know. Actually, it's O positive.
Couldn't tell you.
Positively a good blood type. So, if I'm ever bleeding out, you'll know.
Fair enough. Yes, he's AB negative. But yeah, that was a good thing. Just like I said, it was something that was burning in the back of my mind. I just wanted to get some clarity on because I was trying to think of some other like interesting questions of what we could talk about. Frankly, I couldn't come up with any because this is kind of a weird one-off. I feel kind of topic,
Yeah, that's
definitely
fair.
So, well, without that out of the way, I guess there's really no delaying it. Who wants to go first?
I
will happily go first.
No, I'll take this one.
Okay.
So just I had trouble thinking of embarrassing stories just because I've either forgotten them or blocked them out, or I just don't think they're very embarrassing. But last night I was talking to one of my roommates, and I realized I do have an embarrassing story that relates to you guys. If you recall, I think it was the first time we tried to record the old version of this podcast, or the time we did a bunch of them at once. And I showed up like several hours late because I just couldn't get my directions right to your place. And I was driving like an hour past the exit that I was supposed to get off at, and then coming back, getting off at the right exit, driving like one light short of where I was supposed to turn, and then doubting myself, turning around, driving way. That is, to me, something I am still mortified by.
Oh.
So, to be fair, I know what you're going through because the day I started the job where we all met and I was living at that house, I literally did the same thing. I was supposed to turn right. I turned left and then realized, oh crap, this street just ended. I'm like, okay. I had to go the other way, which in retrospect actually was kind of funny because it ends up being that place where I ended up literally is right next to where one of the wifey's good friends actually lives. So we've been there multiple times, but it's so funny because I always think of that in the back of my mind. But I do remember that. And
oh yeah,
in your defense, that house was in the middle of like a bajillion different freeways, but like almost seemingly disproportionately so.
I don't know. Like I didn't have a problem with the number of freeways. It was like, if you'll recall, I think it was like northbound on that freeway, and they were doing construction, and so the sign wasn't there for that exit.
Yes, I do remember that.
So I'm just like still looking for the one. This feels kind of far, but whatever.
I do remember that. I think it was. Yeah, I think it was when we recorded them all together for the Hangout plays. I think it was.
Mm-hmm. That sounds about right. Yeah,
that's what I want to say. Oh man, because the first time, because usually we did a remote. That was the first time we actually got together in the same building to kind of do the mass recording with the bunch of costume changes and stuff or clothing changes. Yeah. Man. Oh, I do remember that. It's okay. It's okay. You'll never have to go to the house ever again.
I didn't think that I would until that time that I did. So we'll see. Oh, no. Well, definitely not now. No.
Definitely not now because my mom moved out. So
yeah.
No longer have to worry about it. Now you have to get lost at the other house.
Joy.
Which is arguably worse somehow.
All right. So I'm never going there.
Darn, I was thinking of having a graduation thing in June.
I'll come pick you up.
Oh, okay. There we go. Easy.
I'll pick you all up. Meet at my current house, which I know you know how to get to, and then we'll go over to my mom's. Sounds like a plan. All right, you want to go next, Davey?
Yeah, let's take it. This one is an early childhood. I think I was in like 3rd, 4th grade.
Mhm.
But we were reading a book, and it had something to do with like stowing away on a ship. And the teacher was like, okay, well, this kid in the ship is stowed away in a barrel, and he's crouched in this barrel, and he's in there for like 16 hours or like however long it was. I don't really remember the book. And one of the things was he was like, okay, well, let's test and see how long you guys can stay in that position. And so he chose a couple people in the class to go stand up front and like be in this position and see how long they can hold. Well, I wasn't like the most sociable as a kid in the school. I felt like kind of an outcast back in elementary, so I was always trying to find these moments to prove myself. So of course I immediately put my hand up to volunteer. The only issue was I had to use the restroom. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to hold it. I'm going to be fine. I'm just going to hold it. I'm normally not an issue for me. Well, the problem is when you are in that kind of crouched position, I was like pressing up against my bladder. And so it was making things worse. And I was sitting here, I was crouched up here in front of the classroom in front of all the kids. And the only thing going in my mind is like, I can't stop now. I have to be the last person. I have to prove it, right? And I think I'm up there for like 10 to 15 minutes until my bladder couldn't take it anymore. And I peed all over myself in front of the entire classroom.
That is rough, man.
Oh, it was the worst. And I remember it happening, and I just kind of sat there, and I think I got up and I said I need to use the restroom, and I like walked out, and I think I just threw my underwear away, and then just went on for the rest of the day like with what I had. But I was so mortified. Luckily, no kid ever brought it up again, which I guess kids can be ruthless, so I'm surprised that was the case. But I never got any names or anything from it, which I'm like, okay, well, thank God. Like that would have just really salt in the wound,
Totally. No, I think it's because this was such a power play. You're just asserting your dominance over every kid.
Look, I was the last kid up there, so that's all I'm saying. I clearly could squat in a barrel longer than the other kids,
Oh, yeah.
You're just marking your territory, that's all. Oh, I feel like I might have. That kind of brings back some memories that I had in early elementary school. Like we're talking like maybe kindergarten, where I feel I might have had a similar thing. I feel like almost everyone might at some point have had the "Hey, I peed my pants" kind of. Either peed your pants or peed the bed. I feel like everyone kind of has those stories.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
But I only
usually
pee your
not with an
pants
audience,
and
though.
your bed.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you gotta stop doing that. I took back the key. I don't know how you still have it.
I made copies.
Yeah. Well, guess I'm talking to the landlord tomorrow. All right. I will go next.
Okay.
For this one. This was ironically enough not me at my stupidest. So that's the next story. But this story, we'll call it "It's Burnin'." Okay. So I gotta paint the picture. This was during summer camp. I would go every year to summer camp, study something for a couple of weeks at a college, what have you. And we would live in the dorms for like I said, 3 weeks. So you had to do laundry, you had to obviously shower, etc. You were there, you slept there, you had food, everything there, right? So it was the second week, I want to say. And on the weekends, we would always have some sort of like massive activity. So I think this day was we had a massive water balloon fight because it was like 90 degrees with a 90% humidity in Maryland.
Rough.
So it was Pennsylvania. It was Pennsylvania. So it was pretty rough. So it was a perfect day for water balloon fight. So anyway, the situation with the dorms were boys got their own dorm room, girls got their dorm buildings. They're in separate buildings entirely. Just because, hey, there's a bunch of teenagers. Stuff is likely to happen. So let's try and keep that to a minimum, right? So our building only had 2 laundry rooms. The building was 6 stories and housed probably 200 kids, 200 boys. Because of this, a lot of you had specific days in which you had to do your laundry. So effectively what ended up happening was it was on the 6th floor where my room was. So we're walking up the stairs and there's this kid who just starts yelling, my laundry, my laundry. So we're like, oh, okay. He starts shoving people and like starts running up. So we're like, okay, whatever. So I just started like jokingly saying, my laundry, it's burning, it's burning. Like just jokingly. So what ended up happening was like my group of friends, like we were just like laughing so hard because it was just the funniest thing to us at the time. So what I thought would be even more hilarious is if I ran through the hall yelling, my laundry, it's burning, and then run into the laundry room. Now, the laundry room was on the opposite side of the building. In between the 2 sides are 2 doors that pretty much block the 2 sides. So I'm like, okay, we'll have to go through the double doors, push through the double doors, and then whatever, right? So I'm like, okay. So I start running. My laundry, it's burning. Well, what I didn't know and couldn't see is that on the other side of the door, the other RA, who's the person in charge, and his entire hall were having an entire group meeting right in the hall in between me now and the doorway. RAs obviously have a lot of power because they're pretty much like the chaperones, right? So here I am yelling almost at the top of my lungs, it's burning. And at this point, I can either choose to just turn back and go and just melt, or the more obvious choice, just commit, just go for the bit. So I'm like, my laundry is burning, it's my laundry. I'm literally having to like do like the tire situation where you're like running through tires through people's legs because they're sitting like in the hallway. Like I have to like try and dodge them. And the RA is just looking at me like, what the hell are you on? It's not even your day to do laundry. So I'm just like, oh, my laundry, it's burning. So then I go in, I open the door to the laundry room, close it, and like have a mini panic attack. I'm just like, oh God, that just happened. So now I'm just like, okay, how the heck do I salvage this in any way whatsoever? So I end up like taking maybe a couple of minutes just to like, oh, I'm changing my laundry, right? So then I end up walking out, and as I get to the end of the hallway, I just turn around and go, well, guess my laundry wasn't burning, and then just walk through the double doors and just immediately fall, and all I hear are my group of friends just busting up, laughing their heads off, because they're like, oh my God, you're a legend. But I was so embarrassed. Oh my God.
Hey, kudos to you to embracing it and giving it 110% to the end.
I felt like that was the only thing I could have done at that point. I'm already looking like an idiot. I might as well look like a full idiot.
I don't know. Better men would have just broken down and walked away. So, congratulations on Really making a memory for a lot of people.
Thank you.
I can't even imagine how many stories RAs have like that, but I assume it's not many.
Yeah,
There's
a lot that happened at those camps, but yeah,
that's something that like those kids and that RA, they're gonna tell that story forever because there is no rhyme or reason to it, right? You have your logic behind it, but they don't know that. So why is there a kid screaming, "My laundry's burning," running into the laundry room and then coming out, I guess it wasn't burning, and then walking away? Because my first inclination is drugs. That kid's on drugs. There's something wrong with him. But no, you were sober as a peach, I assume.
Yep. Yep.
Wild.
So yeah, let's go next.
We'll keep the order. So my other embarrassing story, this is one that my parents have told a lot, and it's embarrassed me more than I was embarrassed in the moment. A long time ago, like when I was like 8-ish, maybe, our family did a short vacation in Hawaii, and we did some snorkeling. So down there, looking around, like trying to reach the fish. They're obviously swimming away. And then there's an eel. So I'm like trying to reach the eel. My dad has to yank me away. Just like, what were you thinking, Kevin? And then I feel more embarrassed by how often they've told that in front of like the girls I like or people I respect. Just like, I don't know. I was a total idiot.
Hey, person who sees Kevin in a good light, here's how he's an idiot.
Exactly.
It's kind of funny because I'm pretty sure your parents have told me that story.
I'm pretty sure they've told just about everyone that story.
Fair.
This is my first time hearing it, so.
They tell it better than I do because, skip some details here and there.
For sure.
Okay, I have a good one. This one's a doozy. So, a while back, I met a girl at work. Actually, the work that we all met at. We did a lot of, what two kids do together. And eventually, throughout our fooling around, we decided, let's go on an actual date. Right? I think it was this moment where she wasn't working that day and she had called me and she was like, "Hey, I'm not working today. I'm bored. I want to do something. Call out." So I was like, "Okay, fine. I'll skip work today." So I skip work. I play hooky and we go on our first official date, right? And we go to a theme park around here. And there's one thing to know about me, and is that I get motion sick pretty easily. It is what it is. Like with car rides, a lot of time I have to sit up front and I have to just be staring forward because there's a chance that I'm going to get nauseous really easily. Well, we spent just the majority of this day here at the theme park. We were there for 5 hours at this point, and she wants to go on the Viking swing. And I look at her and I said, "Hey, I can't. There's it's not going to happen for me. I just can't. I already know myself. I know where I'm going to be, and I'm already not feeling super great because we had gone so many rides and my body was kind of like, yo, calm down." So, she looked at me. She's like, "No, come on. You're going to be fine. At least go up to the top with me. I really want to do this ride, and we'll see how you're feeling when we get up there." I'm like, "Okay, fine. Whatever. We'll get up to the top." There was no line. So we get up to the top of this ride where you enter, and I look at her I was like, "Look, I can't. I can't do this. I am not feeling well enough. This is just not going to happen." And she was like, No, you have to go with me." And she almost kind of pulls me onto the ride. And the moment we sit down, I know that I'm screwed. I'm already done. I'm already I'm going to lose this fight, but I'm going to try my damnedest to win. So I'm sitting on this ride with her right next to me. There wasn't like a ton of people on this ride. But we were grouped close enough together that I was like, this is like not a great situation. So the ride starts going, and I am just like, I swear you could see it on my face, because my face must have been like, like just breathing. Like in my mind, all I'm thinking is, you need to look forward, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, hold it, hold, and I'm looking forward. And the swing goes backwards, and at that moment I was like, mm-mm. And the floodgates open, and it just goes forward, and then the swing starts going forward, and it pelts the guy in front of me. It just like I get a lot of it out the side, but the majority of it ended up landing on the guy in front of me and on me myself. And the ride stops there. They pull the emergency switch. I'm like getting out, profusely apologizing to the person in front of me, and immediately beeline it to the bathroom, where I'm just sitting there trying to scrub it out of my shirt until she came with she bought a shirt, and she got me a shirt, and I changed, right? So that way the day wasn't like done. We kind of like continue with the day. But at that point, like I was like, I can't go on any more rides. It's not happening. I'll wait for you. Like I'm okay with that. Fortunately enough, it wasn't the deal breaker. Although I'm like, it probably should have been. But yeah, it was rough at the time. And all my most vivid memory is sitting in the bathroom just saying, oh, this is the worst place I've ever been in my life. Is scrubbing my shirt in the bathroom of a theme park.
That is definitely rough, man.
Ugh.
Yep.
Yikes. Oh, I've definitely heard that story before, but oh.
Was this the girl who worked out front or in our department?
Up front.
Oh, okay. I do know who this is then.
Ugh.
Who was the girl in the department?
Should I say names? I thought that you had a quick fling with a girl in the department.
Now I remember. I totally forgot about her, which now I feel really terrible about. Add that into the embarrassing list. But that was also really short. That was also like a really, really short thing. So I don't feel bad for not remembering.
For a second there, I thought you were going to tell a different story.
No.
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 That one stays off.
Nope. I just don't remember what story you're referring to. So. So if you can tell it, I'll live with it. You're welcome to tell my embarrassing story.
Definitely.
Because clearly it was not embarrassing enough for me to remember.
No, definitely not.
Unless you're talking about the girl up front, and that story. Okay.
Yeah.
If we ever do a episode on relationships, we'll get into that then.
Fair enough.
Because I don't think it's embarrassing.
Yeah, maybe not embarrassing, but it is quite a story.
It is a story indeed. Yeah.
Little teaser for the future.
I've got a lot of them.
Fair. It's not like I have an entire list of potential podcast episodes or anything. All right,
Josh. What do you got for us?
Oh, man. Are you ready to hear the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life?
Yes.
It's pretty stupid. Technically illegal, though intentions were not such.
So, for all purposes, this is fictitious.
Well, you'll see what I mean. You'll see. Okay. Let me set the stage. So, this is in high school. Probably a year and a half after It's Burning, where I thought that was the stupidest thing I've ever done. Little did I know I would outdo it. So, just to put things into perspective, this was around the time I was still kind of dealing with depression and things like that. So my headspace was not in the right space. So this is close to the end of senior year, I think, at this point. So I'm already like kind of starting to check out because I'm like, well, I know I'm not going to go into really any college right after high school because my grades are severely impacted because of depression and stuff. Really hit me bad, right? So I'm like, well, okay, I'm probably gonna do community college, whatever. Like, I'm not. I was starting to just check out. So there are several players in this story, of which to this day I will maintain that I will not say any names. I will not implicate anyone, and for all intents and purposes, I was a solo participant. That is a story I maintain. That's gonna get shattered a little bit right now. There were players, I will not divulge them. Okay, so the thing about me in high school, and it's very weird, because I never really saw myself as a popular person, but I knew a crap ton of people at my high school. I had a lot of acquaintances. Like I easily knew the majority of my class and the class underneath me, like easily at least 75% of the students. And we're talking a 3,500 plus student school. So I knew just too many people, I think. Right. And I was definitely a lot better at the time of socializing and like just finding things with people. I don't know what changed since then, but I just became more antisocial, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, story for another time. So I knew a lot of people. So we are in, I'm trying to remember the order of events, but I'm in English class, which is my last period for the day. And because it's toward the end of the school year, we're watching some movies, doing a little bit of research, like not research papers, but response papers toward those movies. They're very thematic, etc., right? So we're there and we're watching movies, and I notice my teacher keeps leaving out her VCR with her DVD player, but not her projector. She locks up her projector. And it was a weird thing because one of my buddies who I had 5 classes with, which considering we had 6 periods or 6 classes, I had almost all of my classes with him. One of the things that he decided to just out of nowhere mention was like, oh, it's funny how like overprotective she is of her projector, but not her DVD player. And then she mentioned that, or he mentioned that the teacher next door who he has for first period, the only class I don't have with him, just doesn't even care. It's just sitting on his desk. For some freaking reason, this lit off a light bulb in my head. Going, I'm sure I could borrow that projector, bring it over here, and watch a movie after school or something. Don't know why that logic came to be. But this is the story of the borrowed projector. So, here's what ends up happening. One of my buddies, he did like the work over the summer type thing, and one of his jobs was doing custodial work over summer school. So he got to really know the custodial staff, and by proxy, because at the time I was hanging out a lot with him, I got to know him as well. Just cool dudes. They're, obviously you see them during recess, lunch, after school, etc. And then I was always around for either extracurriculars or just hanging out. So like I would always see them. We'd always talk. We had a good rapport. Well, anyway, one day my buddy, he ends up, I think, forgetting something in a classroom or whatever. Teacher's gone, and we end up running into one of the custodians saying, "Hey, like super out of the dark. Like I don't know like if this is okay, but like I left my book or something in so and so's class. Do you think you can let me in real quick just to get get my book?" And he's like, "Sure, yeah, whatever." He was just super cool. He didn't care. He literally gave him the master key. He's like, just bring it back. You'll find me. Like, that's how cool we were with them. So what ends up happening is shortly thereafter, I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be crazy? He just leaves it on his desk. I could get the master key. I could say I forgot something, and then I could borrow it, take it over, etc. So I'm like, okay, cool. Okay, now we're starting to hatch the plan. Again, don't know why this popped in my head, but this is what happened. So anyway, I go, okay, what are the off chances that like he's there or like something? I was like, okay, so I started thinking of like contingencies, right? So one of the contingencies I had was, okay, let me get a note from someone saying, oh, we just need to borrow the projector, etc. Well, this is where another one of my players came in. He worked in the library at the time and was really good at forging signatures. Why? Don't know. He was just really good at it. So I picked arguably the nicest potential teacher there, who I know does after work stuff or after school stuff, to sign this note. Hey, can you give so-and-so the projector, signed, etc. So I have this note, and then eventually I plan it out, and I know I had at least one person who was like, oh yeah, I'm down to like hang out after class and watch a movie. And I don't remember if there's a second that was there. But we pick a day, and we're like, okay, we're going to do it. So I go over, and immediately, and this should have been the red flag, I go over, because my my sixth period class is right next to that guy's first period class, so it's really next door. So we leave. I wait for my teacher to leave. She's gone. I know her routine. She pretty much gets out of there like ASAP, right? But I notice that there's someone else using the first period teacher's room. Should have been the red flag. Don't do it. Wait for another day. But like, nah, I got this note. I'm good. I'll be fine. So I go in, and apparently, I think it was another teacher. It wasn't that actual teacher, but another teacher was using the classroom, and they were doing some after school thing. I forget what it was. Not important. But anyway, I walk in, and I'm like, oh, hey, I was expecting so-and-so, but do you mind if we borrow the projector? The light bulb just went out on so-and-so's, on the nice teachers, and we're in the middle of a presentation for, I think I said Avid or something that he did. So, like, oh, we really, he's like, oh yeah, sure. And I did it with like just charisma and just confidence, and like handed the note and everything. So she wasn't any the wiser. So then I end up taking it out, making sure that there's no one else like watching or anything, sneak in to my English teacher's room. I hook it up. We were watching a movie. I couldn't tell you what movie it was, but it was something around 2009, 2010 that just came out that was big. So we do that. I then unplug it, make sure there's no one looking again, watching me walk out of this room when it should have been upstairs in a different room. So then I go over, and I take it back, and she's like, oh, hey, like I wasn't sure like what was going to happen. Like I sent someone up to the room, but no one was there. I was like, oh yeah, we had, oh my God, I think we accidentally locked the door. The door was off. Like the lights were off because we're doing the presentation with the projector. Right. It's like, I played it off. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. Right. Like it was a logical excuse. It was good. So then I'm like, okay, cool. Well, first period the following day rolls around, and my buddy, who I have 5 classes with, is like, hey, my teacher just called the office, and your name was brought up. They don't know it's you, but they know someone with your name had borrowed the projector. Well, here was my mistake, and I'm not condoning this, but this is where I realized I went wrong. I had put my actual name on the note because I'm like, in case she wants an ID or something, they could validate it was me. Had I known it was going to go over even easier than that, I would have put a fake name, wouldn't have gotten caught, period. Easily. Like that, in retrospect, that's where I went wrong, other than the actual process of doing this. So anyway, story gets better. Somehow. So they eventually, they go through the day, they bring me in because I'm like one of the few people that had that name. Apparently there was maybe someone else who had a similar or whatever, that they were just questioning just to be sure. And at this point, I'm like, look, I'm already brought in. If I say it wasn't me, what are they going to do? They're going to bring in the other substitute teacher or whoever. She's going to ID me. I'm screwed. Now I'm cutting a lie. I'm done so. At this point, I'm like, look, I admit I did do it. I was being dumb. I didn't know any better. I do apologize, etc. I just fess up to it because I'm like, at this point, this is the best thing that I can do to try and get myself out of this situation now that I find myself in. Right? So I end up getting pulled into the vice principal's office. And she's like, she looks at me. She looks at my record. I have APs. Sure, my grades aren't the greatest, but for all intents and purposes, I'm a decent kid. And she looks at me, she's like, what the hell were you thinking? And I'm like, honestly, I wasn't. Like, not even being charming or anything, but like literally just like I wasn't. Like, I was like, I'm an idiot. Like, I'll admit it. This is the stupidest thing I've done ever. So then she's like, honestly, we were gonna expel you, but I see we're gonna suspend you because of your record. Like, we don't want to expel you because obviously you're obviously a decent student, maybe just going through something, right? So she's like, well, instead, here's what we'll do. We'll do Saturday school. So detention. So that's all I got, detention. Right? So they tell me, okay, show up on this date, etc. And I show up. And they tell us to meet in the quad or the main area and wait for further instructions. So it's 9:00 that rolls around. And they're like, okay, everyone report to so-and-so's office, or to so-and-so's room. Happened to be my English teacher's room. Who, by the way, couldn't even look at me after this happened. Like, she said she was even defending me. Like, no, he's a good kid. There's no way. And I'm like, no, like, I was an idiot. It happened. So I ended up getting called into her. So we're all got called into her room. Turns out there was a second person or second teacher that they were splitting people up into, which happened to be the other teacher, the one whose projector I borrowed. So because she couldn't stand looking at me, I ended up going into the other person's class. So the funny thing is that honestly, wasn't that bad. It was frankly super freaking chill in there because what the English teacher was, what she did a Breakfast Club type thing where you had to write an essay by the end of the day. Whereas the other teacher, his thing was like, okay, we're going to go around the room. You're going to tell me exactly why you're here, and I'm going to give you some advice. That was the whole day. Super chill. He was just like tearing people apart. It was great. So then obviously we go around and then it's my turn. He's like, oh, this is my favorite story. Hold on, guys. Buckle up. So like I end up still coming out on top somehow at the end of the day. But yeah, the fact that this whole thing that I thought it'd be a smart idea to borrow a projector is officially the dumbest thing I've ever done in life.
Yeah, that was pretty dumb. But I mean, it worked out for you.
Somehow.
Well enough.
Somehow.
I'm more surprised that they followed up on the projector borrowing the next day. Especially like you brought the projector back. Like what? I don't know.
My main thing was she was like something was fishy. Because
Okay,
if we
fair.
sent someone up, no one really sure you didn't take it, but you could have stolen it. There were like other that was one of those where they didn't know the full extent. But yeah, I mean, it was enough that, like I said, I got pulled in, and that all happened.
Damn. At least it wasn't suspension.
True. It's funny, to this day, my mom does not know about that.
Really?
No. So the funny thing was, in senior year, because we lived so far away from that school, we were late every single day, to the point where the counselor was like, honestly, just take the free period. They're like, just that way you don't have to worry about it, and you just come in, you'll be early for the second period, you'll be good. That was literally what they're like, honestly, it's not even worth. So I end up telling her, yeah, it's because we've been late too many times. So it was enough to be believable. But yeah, to this day, she doesn't know the story. If you're listening, it happened.
Way to get ahead on that one.
Pretty much. It's only 10 years later. 10 plus years later. But all right. You guys have any others to share, or shall we get into some juicy responses?
I've got one more.
One more.
I've got one more. And this is I don't know if I've told either of you the story, but this is the story that makes me look the dumbest.
Okay.
So I was like 18 or 19 at the time. So I was like fresh adult. Well, I spent a lot of my time at that point because I wasn't in school and I hadn't started a job yet. And so I was kind of like out of high school. So I think I was 18. I was out of high school. I really wasn't doing anything. This is kind of my long break before I actually started to do things as an adult. And I spent a lot of time really late at night with friends. And I was the only one with a car. I was the only one who could drive. So I did a lot of driving around. Well, we find ourselves at this point, it's probably around, I want to say midnight, and we are in the neighborhood of one of my friends. And we're kind of just driving around. We're just kind of like messing around, right? We're just wasting the night away. And we're driving down the street, and we're talking like this is like a really suburban neighborhood, right? It's nothing but house tracks. So because of where I live, everyone's already asleep. But we're driving down the street and we see a couple girls sitting on a corner, right? They're just kind of chilling there. They look around our age. And we think, okay, wouldn't it be funny if we just did something out of the blue, right? So we drive past the street, and then I turn around, and I go back up the street, and I stop the car in front of them. They're on the other side of the street, but I'm stopped in this middle of the street. We roll all our windows down, and we start like blasting music, loud enough that they could like understand it, but not loud enough to like bother the neighborhood. Right? We weren't like super ruffians, but and then I think, wouldn't it be funny if I then just shot the car in reverse and just fucking floor it backwards? Well, I got my license at 18. And I failed my first test because I couldn't back into a space. I couldn't like parallel park into a space. So I've never been the best at reversing. Well, I start going in reverse and I really commit to it. So I'm flooring it back. We're all laughing in the car. We all think that this is probably the weirdest sight that they're going to see in however long. This is crazy. I get maybe 50 feet and I ram the car, probably going 15, 20 miles, into the back of a trailer. Just whoop, bam. We hit it. We immediately stop. We're sitting. These girls clearly can see that we've had this major accident. I get out of the car and I'm looking. My trunk is destroyed and my backlights are gone. The trailer, for the most part, is fine because I think I hit the hitch. I hit the hitch of the trailer, which you can't do a lot of damage to a hitch because it's just a big bar of metal, but it did a lot of damage to my car. We got lucky because there was propane tanks sitting near that point. So if I was going any faster and I had impaled my car anymore, there was a chance that we were going to hit those propane tanks. Which, could not have been bad, but also could have been very bad. So I get out of this car. I'm kind of standing out front of this person's house, and they have to walk out and see me standing there, this kid. I'm like, I hit your trailer. I hit your trailer. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I hit your trailer. And like give them my insurance information as my two buddies are sitting in this car having a panic attack because we've been in the middle of a car accident. And I'm just like, if nothing else, like I'm not scared and I'm not panicking because I've hit a car. I'm just super embarrassed that I even have to go through this right now and tell someone I just damaged your property because I'm an idiot. Because I wanted to, quote unquote, like be weird in front of these girls for whatever dumb reason because I'm a child. That's like the one thing that I'm like, I should have just gone forward. I don't know why I reversed. I'm an idiot. This would have worked out perfectly if I had gone forward.
Yeah.
And then I paid high insurance rates ever since.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
At least you didn't really damage the trailer. And
Yeah.
you did give the girls quite a sight. That is
I
a
did.
story they will tell.
But that car was totaled, which sucks because it was a nice car. Yeah.
Oof. Oof.
Oh well. Oh well.
Thinking back, you've told me about your history of cars. Was that the Mustang?
Nope. The Mustang was a totally different situation.
Oh, okay.
That one I got ran off the road and into a car wash sign, destroyed it.
Jeez.
And I got stopped by a tree after that. So that was cool.
Man.
Oof.
Yeah, big oof.
Damn. Well, if you want to feel better, let's look at some other people's failings.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
How about that, no? All right. We have all of these are anonymous just because we figured it might be best for the integrity of everyone. Granted, one of them did tell me, I really don't care. Actually, I think two of them told me I really don't care. But I'm like, I just principle of the thing. So these are audience responses. And if you enjoy these and want to join the conversation, you can always find us at Audible Anomaly on all of the social media platforms. And if you want to be an anonymous entry, you can always shoot us an email at audibleanomaly@gmail.com. All the links are in the description. So you can always find us there. But for now, let's get into our first one. Anon 1 is what we'll call it. This story is, I accidentally went to the girls' locker room when I was attending high school. Was sitting down, didn't pay attention.
Yeah.
I guess it could happen. And that would be very embarrassing once people started coming in.
Yeah.
I assume this is a male having gone into the females.
Correct. This was a male.
Because if a female went into a female locker room and got embarrassed, I'd be like, interesting.
You never know.
There's a little bit of embarrassment from going to the wrong room. They did say by accident.
Yeah. I mean, I always felt self-conscious going in the normal locker room or
Fair.
correct locker room. So there's always that. But yeah, that's the shortest one that we have. But still, I feel you. All right, we have a non 2. This is just because it matters in terms of the ending, the beginning sentence here. A female. When I was 15, I got in trouble for hanging out with a boy and wasn't allowed to go out anymore. Well, that same week, my friend was throwing a party. And somehow, she passed for looking as an adult and managed to get a realtor to tour an empty apartment complex. While on the tour, she unlocked the backyard door and windows to sneak back in later to use for the house party. Naturally, I didn't want to miss the party, so I snuck out. While I was on my way there, my stomach wasn't feeling great. In retrospect, should have used this as a sign. Eventually, I get to the party. I was there for maybe 10 minutes, then the cops show up, and I got arrested for trespassing. I ended up having to do community service at a church by my house. I also had to take these classes with my mom about why drugs are bad.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah. Fortunately, it happened in your youth. Pretty sure it got expunged. You're fine. But that's still rough.
Can we talk about how wild it is that a kid at 15 decided what's the best place to have a party at an empty apartment?
And then managed to pull it off? Like,
I know.
That's really impressive. Like, awful, but impressive.
Right? Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, kudos to that person, but also
Yeah.
play yourself more, maybe? Find your purpose?
Yeah.
This one's prequel to Ocean's 11, huh?
Gotcha.
I will say, though, that empty houses that aren't yours are, like, fascinating in an odd way. Definitely had lunch with people in, like, model houses just for fun.
It's the make-believe, you know?
A little bit.
You know, you take the notion of, like, you know, playing with Barbies and Barbie's dream house, and then you actually make it real.
Exactly like that. Yes.
You actually have tea with Mrs. Nesbit. All right. Moving on to number 3. So, I had recently started my new job, and things were going rather well. I had been there for about a month at this point. Well, one day, the garage door people were there to work on replacing and fixing stuff. Meanwhile, my boss was on vacation in Texas fishing. Well, for the love of me, I could not get his work truck to start all day. At the end of the workday, I think to myself, you know what? Let me try to start it one more time. I go over, try to start it, nothing. I decided to try it one more time. This time, I push in the clutch, hold the brake, turn the key. It finally started up. However, the truck decided to jump a bit, and I ended up going straight into the garage door. I didn't know what to do. So one guy eventually comes out, and I could tell that how stressed I am right now. He ends up just going home without really saying anything. So as I left, I called him and told him, look, I didn't do it on purpose. He responds with, I know. Well, just so happens then, the owner's brother, who, by the way, he's dating his daughter, calls me and says, heard you had a fun day. He goes, yeah. Well, anyway, time eventually goes on. He's stressing the F out due to not knowing if he still has a job since he's waiting for the boss to return. The very first thing he says, the boss, when he returns to me, he's like, go check the fuel in my truck, but don't start it. The secretary laughed. Meanwhile, I'm stressing out over here because I had to ride with him all day that day. Turns out the outcome of the story is that he basically said, "Yeah, stuff happens. Don't do it again." Fast forward 2 months into being there, and he's even got a bonus, yet he's still the joke of the shop.
That's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a bit.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. I mean, not much you can do when it jumps like that on you, you know?
No.
Kind of SOL.
Cars are a tricky one.
Especially manual cars.
Yes.
We are so, myself included, I mean, because I technically don't know how to drive stick shift yet. But we're definitely, especially in the US, predominantly all we have are automatics for the most part. It's definitely a lot more common. But all right, moving on. Number 4. So this is number 4. I work in tech support, and I had a customer that was running into a weird issue with his motherboard. It was not saving any of his BIOS settings or the time. Every time he booted up his PC, he would have to resync the time and set the BIOS settings again. Well, in my head, I said, has to be a bad battery. Most likely it died. Which, us being technical, yeah, but possibly, the right solution. Anyway, so I asked the RMA team if they had a battery, and I caught hell for it. The RMA team and my bosses just wanted to RMA the full system to replace the board. For whatever reason, this made me absolutely lose my temper. I went absolutely off on them, calling them all idiots and getting mad that they wanted to put the customer out for roughly 3 weeks over a battery. Well, one person eventually reasoned with me and did order some batteries for the future, but I ended up telling the customer to just purchase a battery, and that was that. Well, 3 months go by. Lo and behold, I get the same customer having the same issue again. And this time, I RMA the system. My bosses and the RMA team were correct. Something was up with the board that was killing it, so I had to RMA or return it back to the manufacturer and swallow my pride. I still get crap for that one too, but I deserve it after the hell I raised over them not having a battery and their excuse being that they were afraid that it'll cause issues when they go to warranty the board. That was the main thing that pissed me off.
Yeah. Damn.
Sucks because it's like, you did everything right. You assessed it correctly. They just happen to be right on that one.
It's tough when you're confidently incorrect and then realize the correct solution, and they've been telling you that the whole time, and you just have to sit there and be like, oh God, I don't want to tell you you're right because I've fought so hard, but I have to.
Yeah. Definitely had a lot of similar moments. Not like with the stakes this high, which aren't very high. Like being confidently incorrect in school. It happens. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready for number 5? The last one we have this week. Oh, this one's a good one. I would say the most embarrassing story happened when I was in high school. I laugh at it now, but at the time, it was rather embarrassing. When I was a freshman, I used to hang out with these outcast kids, like the goths, etc., right? So we would hang out by the back of the school by the dumpsters because, we were trashy kids. Anyway, one day, the school threw out a small round cafeteria table. We decided to dig it out and fixed it. Eventually, the kids would started to graffiti on the table. Mostly it was horror-related things and pentagrams, but one person decided to write the name of a rival high school. Under it, they wrote "must die" with guns next to it. For context, this was a couple of years, 3 or 4 years after the Columbine shooting. So not exactly great time to do it anytime, but this was shortly thereafter where that was a big deal. So anyway, I never participated in any of the drawings on table, but when the school saw it, we all got called to the office. Understandably so. I was pulled for my graphics design class, and when I showed up to the principal's office, the police were there and I had my rights read to me. The other students all said that I was the one who did all the graffiti on the table, and when they searched me, they found markers and a box cutter. I told them I literally just been pulled from graphics design class and was in the middle of using them. I was making and cutting stickers at the time they pulled me out of the class. I was told I could be facing charges of terrorism, and it would be up to my counselor on what the outcome would be. Luckily, she knew it wasn't me because she had had problems with the rest of them before, doing similar things. Well, anyway, while all this is happening, my parents were called. The person who called is an extremely religious person, just like my mother. Apparently, all she had told my mom was that I'd gotten in trouble for having drawn satanic imagery and didn't even mention the possible arrest or charge of terrorism. Needless to say, when my parents arrived, my mother went hysterical. She was crying, throwing herself on the ground, praying, forcing me to throw away my skull rings and necklace. When we got home, all of my CDs, shirts, and posters were thrown away. Eventually, I was expelled from that high school and was sent to a summer Bible camp where, needless to say, I wasn't very well behaved, but that's another story. My mother never believed me, and a few years ago, I asked her if she remembered. To this day, she thinks that I was expelled for satanic imagery. She does remember the possible terrorism charge, but apparently that was never the problem. Only the Satan stuff. Talk about a satanic panic. For the record, I'm not a Satanist, never have been. I'm just a metalhead.
Oh, God. That's so awful.
Right? Oh, man. I shouldn't be laughing, but... Oh, man.
I feel so... Just to be so thrown under the bus by people you, I assume, trusted?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
God. Like, those people purposely ruined someone's life.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I don't feel any embarrassment. I feel livid.
Just a bit. Just a bit. Yeah. Whew. That's the doozy.
That is a
that
doozy.
we'll end with.
Damn.
Right? Well, if you want to see any of your events, Davey, where can they find you at?
You can find me on twitch.tv/DPRLTRON. Go find me there. I play video games. We have fun. Hilarity ensues.
Can confirm. You can always find me at Bromium404 on YouTube and Bromium wherever you get your social media. Links are always in the description down below. And Kevin.
Occasionally, you can find me at the local watering hole, but good luck.
You have to find where the local is. Alrighty. Well, with that out of the way, like I mentioned before, you can catch us all on social media at Audible Anomaly at Audible Anomaly, or shoot us an email at audibleanomaly@gmail.com. Next week, we have a really interesting one, especially considering the state of the world at the moment. We are talking about our biggest health issues that we've ever dealt with. So I think that'll be a very interesting and fun conversation. So we hope to see you there. Until then, though, we've been Audible Anomaly, and we'll talk at you next week. Bye.